Caesar, a 32-year-old holding the position of quaestor in Spain, looked at the statue of Alexander the Great and felt a deep sense of shame. Alexander had conquered more than half of the known world years before reaching Caesar's age. However, until that day, Caesar had not achieved a significant success that influenced the world. For an ambitious soldier caught in the claws of a power struggle that had been going on for years, this was an unacceptable situation. He decided that he must change the world, imprint his name in history no matter what. We encounter this event in the parallel lives written by the Greek historian Alutargos years after Caesar's death and in the automotive of Roman historian in Rome. So, how had Caesar, one of the most recognized historical figures in the world, lived his life up to this point? How had his experiences until the age of 32 influenced him, and what path would he follow in the coming years to gain more power? To answer all these questions, leaving Caesar lamenting at the statue of Alexander, we must go back to Rome 32 years ago. Gaius Julius Caesar was born in Rome in 100 BC as the son of a couple belonging to the Julian family. When Caesar was born, the Julian family was not very powerful, yet they had a deep-rooted history. According to legend, the members of this family were descendants of Aeneas, the son of the goddess Venus. Although they were not very rich and influential, their reputation and history made them accepted among the noble class in Rome, called the patricians. Looking at each member of the family individually, we see that their positions were not actually bad. For example, Caesar's father, Gaius Caesar, who lived at the same time as him, had served as a governor in the province of Asia in Rome. His aunt Julia was married to Gaius Marius, one of the prominent figures of the Roman Republic. His mother Aurelia was the daughter of a family with powerful connections in Rome. Caesar's family had a certain power both politically and militarily. Although there is not much record of Caesar's childhood, we can determine through historians like Suetonius, who wrote several centuries after Caesar's death, that his life changed significantly with the sudden death of his father in 85 BC. Especially, at the age of 16, Caesar found himself suddenly responsible for his family as a young man. At that very moment, a civil war broke out between his aunt's husband Gaius Marius. Both sides were constantly striving to gain more power and were not hesitant to get their hands dirty with blood. Roman politics was divided into two factions. One, called the Optimates, preferred aristocratic rule within Sulla, and the other, called the Populars, preferred direct elections. Caesar's uncle Marius belonged to Populars, while his rival Sulla belonged to Optimates. Initially, fortune smiled on him, and he achieved consecutive victories against his rivals. However, in 86 BC, with Marius and his ally Cornelius taking over, the process reversed. Caesar also got his share from Marius's victory. Thanks to the position his relatives had achieved in Rome, Caesar was nominated to become a high-ranking priestess of Jupiter. It was believed that being a priest of this god, who had a prominent position among the Roman gods, would bring countless advantages to Caesar. This would bring him great respect and power. However, there was a problem. Jupiter priests could only marry noble women from the patrician class. Caesar had to separate from his fiancée, who was a plebeian, an ordinary citizen. Determined to become a priest, Caesar parted ways with his fiancée and married Cornelia, who was the daughter of Cornelius Sulla. Caesar's career hadn't actually started off too bad. He had reached a privileged position thanks to his relatives. He was married to the daughter of one of the two men ruling Rome. Everything was going well for now. However, in Rome, everything could change at any moment, and Caesar would have to learn this the hard way. Shortly after taking control in Rome, luck turned to Sulla's favor again with the death of Marius, and in 82 BC, the administration of Rome changed hands once again. This was a disaster for Caesar, who was Marius's nephew and Sulla's son-in-law. Successively, his priesthood was taken away. His inheritance and the property he had received from his wife Cornelia as dowry were seized, and he was forced to divorce his wife. Despite all these difficulties, Caesar, risking his life, resisted the order to divorce. He began to live a fugitive life for a while. Caesar, who had been appointed to one of the most important religious offices in Rome at a young age, had lost everything within a few years, reaching rock bottom. However, the weight of these bad days would partially lighten, thanks to his mother's intervention. Aurelia, using some connections, including supporters of Sulla, pleaded for her son's forgiveness. Although Sulla did not return Caesar's confiscated properties, he agreed to pardon him. Caesar was afraid that Sulla might change his mind at any moment and have him executed. For now, the best option was to get away from Rome. In 81 BC, he joined the army and went to the province of Asia, where his father had served as governor. Although expelled from a high-ranking priesthood and forced to join the army, the real period that would bring Caesar to the power he desired had just begun. This period, starting with the beginning of his military career, would pave the way for Caesar to draw a new path that would change his life. Cursus honorum, which extends to the highest office of the Roman Republic, consulship, means path of honor in Latin. To advance on this path, it was necessary to serve in military positions for about 10 years. Caesar joined the army as a Roman youth at the age of 17 and rose through the ranks within the army for 10 years. After 10 years of service, he would be eligible to be elected as a tribune. Tribune was a kind of public representation. Those who held this position could later be elected as quaestor, treasurer. After completing the term as quaestor, there were two separate paths in cursus honorum. Non-nobles could become tribunes plebes, while nobles could continue their path from the aedile position. Officials in the aedile position organized games, festivals, and gladiator fights to entertain the public and the nobility. Although it may not sound very important, considering that winning the love and support of the people was crucial in Roman politics, this position could be a great source of power and popularity. After completing the term at this stage, the person would rise to the praetor's office. Praetors served as general administrators with the authority to judge and pass judgments on citizens. At the final stage of cursus honorum, there was the consulship. Consuls served as leaders of the Senate and the state. Their term lasted for a maximum of 1 year, and 2 different consuls were elected in one term. Consuls had the power to veto each other's decisions, preventing one person from obtaining unlimited power. Caesar decided to follow the path of the cursus honorum. He aimed to go through all the stages, become a consul, and solidify his position with the powers he would acquire. This would be a challenging and lengthy journey, but Caesar would have to demonstrate to everyone that he was a man capable of facing such difficulty in a short time. When Sulla died in 78 BC, Caesar had decided that he could safely return to Rome. Unable to reclaim the properties confiscated during Sulla's time, he bought a house in the Subura district, where the low-income people of Rome lived, with the money he had accumulated during his military years. He began using his outstanding qualities and ambition in the field of law to earn money and popularity. Caesar embarked on a relentless struggle against corrupt governors involved in bribery and extortion, and was quite successful in this regard. In a short time, he removed many governors notorious for corruption from their positions. During this period, an event occurred that demonstrated Caesar's ambition and determination. In 75 BC, when Caesar set out on a journey over the Aegean Sea, the exact purpose of his journey was not known, but some sources suggest that he intended to go to the island of Crete or Rhodes to receive rhetorical, i.e. oratory, lessons from the philosophers there. This was probably related to his desire to improve his oratory skills and become a more effective politician in Rome. However, things did not go well during this journey, and Caesar was captured by a group of pirates. The pirates' goal was not to kill Caesar, but to hold him hostage for ransom. During his captivity, Caesar got along well with his captors. When the pirates demanded 20 silver coins from Caesar, he jokingly added that his life was worth at least 50 silver coins, and he would crucify them one by one when he found them all. The pirates did not take this threat seriously, and shortly after receiving the ransom, they released Caesar. However, true to his word, Caesar found and had all the pirates killed and crucified. Caesar's ambition and determination became even more apparent with this incident. After his captivity, Caesar was called back to Rome. Taking a break from his legal career, he completed a 10-year military service in the province of Asia. When he returned to Rome, he received the title Bonus Militium and became a military commander. After serving as Tribunus Militium, he was elected as quaestor in 69 BC. This was the first step on the cursus honorum path. Shortly thereafter, Caesar lost his Aunt Julia, followed by his cousin Cornelia. After the funerals of his aunt and wife, Caesar went to Spain to serve as quatuorver, public official. Standing in front of the statue of Alexander, he thought that what he had done so far was not enough. However, everything was not over for Caesar yet. After his mission in Spain, he returned to Rome and married Pompeia, the granddaughter of his former rival Sulla. By the year 65 BC, when he reached the next stage in his career ladder, the aedileship, Caesar began to effectively organize entertainment for the public. Aediles were known not only for their state duties but also as representatives of the people. Using the resources of this office with lavish games and shows, Caesar began to win the love of the people. In 63 BC, to reach the position of Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of the Roman state religion, Caesar entered the elections. While his rivals may have been more experienced, Caesar easily won the election thanks to the love and support of the people. In 62 BC, he took office as Pontifex Maximus, marking a new stage on the cursus honorum path. When he was appointed as the governor of the western part of Spain, Caesar's political power was increasing, but he had to constantly spend money for his campaigns, which meant accumulating more debt. He tried to manage his debts by collaborating with Rome's leading wealthy individuals, such as Marcus Crassus. Crassus was the person who agreed to pay off some of Rome's debts in return for Caesar's support for his rival, Pompey. However, Crassus had one condition for his support. He wanted Caesar to support Pompey in exchange for the money he provided. During this period, one of the most pressing issues in Roman politics was the demand of Crassus, who wanted a talented politician like Caesar to be supported by a leader like Pompey. This alliance could create a significant opportunity for Caesar, and that's why he partially accepted Crassus's request. However, for Caesar to fulfill Crassus's demands, he needed to return to Rome before completing his term of office in Spain. Now that he had resolved the issue with debts, he began to focus again on his military career. Initially, he campaigned against some rebellious tribes in Spain and emerged victorious from the battles. He was hailed as an emperor by the legionaries under his command. During that time, legionaries saluted their beloved commanders as emperors after significant victories. Caesar, with his reforms and victories, gained the love of both his soldiers and the people, thus strengthening his power. By the year 60 BC, Caesar had successfully completed his mission in Spain and returned to Rome. From this point on, he started working towards obtaining the highest office on the cursus honorum path, the consulship. The consulship elections were highly contested, but despite rivals like Marcus Cato, Caesar won the elections and became consul alongside Crassus in 59 BC. Thus, Caesar reached the final stage of the cursus honorum. However, he would not stop here. He would strive for more and pursue a balancing act between Rome's two most powerful men. Crassus was wealthy, and Pompey was the most potent military figure in Rome. Caesar reconciled them and formed an alliance with an unwritten agreement. This alliance is known in Roman history as the First Triumvirate, or the rule of three men. After reaching this agreement, the next step was to strengthen the alliance, and the easiest way to do this was to establish family ties. Caesar married his daughter Julia to Pompey and himself married Calpurnia, the daughter of a powerful senator. By these marriages, family bonds were created, further solidifying the alliance. Until this time, Caesar had achieved many successes thanks to the love of the people. His rivals might be rich and powerful, but with the support of the people, he had managed to defeat them every time. During his consulship, he continued to consider the people in the laws he enacted. For example, in 59 BC, he submitted a bill to the Senate. According to this bill, public lands would be distributed to a certain percentage of the poor. Under normal circumstances, the Senate would not approve this bill because, during that period, officials were often inclined to think of their interests. However, Caesar filled Rome with Pompey's soldiers to support Pompey's ally and pressured his rivals to pass the law. The other consul, Marcus Bibulus, tried to block this bill, but Caesar's armed supporters removed him from the forum, getting the law passed. The other consul, Marcus Bibulus, sometimes tried to object to Caesar's laws but couldn't cope with him and shut himself up at home. As the end of his consulship in 59 BC approached, Caesar secured himself further by having the Senate appoint him as the heir to Gaul and the provinces. When unexpectedly the governor of the Transalpine Gaul province died, Caesar took over that position as well. There were serious reasons for Caesar's desire to be a governor. The probability of governors facing legal problems was low, so Caesar wanted to leave Rome temporarily and try to gain legal immunity. Moreover, being a governor could be a lucrative venture politically and financially. In debt, Caesar knew that he could make money with new military campaigns and strengthen his reputation with victories. The Gaul region, with its borders to the territories he controlled, was tailor-made for military campaigns that would nourish Caesar's power. In the campaign that began in 58 BC, Caesar, along with his legions, almost completely took over Gaul. Not content with just that, he organized expeditions to Britain. Although he did not achieve complete success in Britain as he did in Gaul, he gained new acquisitions from this campaign as well. With his successes in the Gallic War, Caesar had covered a great distance on the path to the peak of his power by 58 BC. Caesar's rise and power were not welcomed by everyone. He was gaining new enemies in Rome and faced the risk of losing the support of his allies. Caesar's biggest problem was the tendency of his relationships with allies to deteriorate. The death of Julia, whom he had married to Pompey, weakened Caesar's alliance. Although Caesar proposed that Pompey marry his niece, Pompey did not accept this offer, indicating that Pompey did not want to continue the alliance built through family ties. Additionally, Caesar's other ally, King Ptolemy, had died during a campaign against the Parthians in 53 BC. Between 52 BC and 49 BC, distrust and tension between Caesar and Pompey continued to grow. Cato and Bibulus, who had served as consuls during Caesar's consulship, were trying to convince Pompey to take action against Caesar. It had become a reality within Rome that a civil war was inevitable. Finally, to bring the situation under control, Caesar decided to go to Rome and arrive at the banks of the Rubicon River in northern Italy with his legions. According to Roman laws, a commander crossing the Rubicon River with his legions was illegal, and it meant a declaration of war. Caesar did not want to return to Rome and did not want to live as a fugitive if he had to go back. Therefore, he advanced towards Rome by crossing the river. This event was considered a significant turning point in Roman history, and the expression "crossing the Rubicon" became a proverbial phrase meaning embarking on an irreversible path. In 49 BC, Caesar's advance towards Rome prompted his opponents to flee. Caesar entered Rome without encountering serious resistance and seized the city. Taking advantage of his trusted soldier Marcus Antonius as his deputy, he took control of Rome. he pursued Pompey and other rivals. Shortly after leaving Italy, Caesar was declared dictator by the Senate under the influence of Marcus. Dictatorship was a temporary measure for extraordinary situations, providing the individual with unquestionable authority for 6 months. Caesar obtained legally unquestionable power in the Roman world and appointed Marcus Antonius as his deputy. During this time, Caesar fought several times with Pompey's forces, and after Pompey's death, he enriched himself with conquests in Gaul and eliminated his rivals, becoming the most powerful man in the Roman world. The man who stood in sadness in front of Alexander's statue at the age of 32 was at least as strong and powerful at the age of 53. While staying in Egypt, Caesar became involved in the Egyptian civil war and sided with Cleopatra, the sister of the pharaoh. He ensured Cleopatra's ascension to the Egyptian throne, thus gaining an influential position over the Egyptian territories. After returning to Rome, he was again declared dictator in 48 BC and had unlimited authority for another year. Strengthening his position with victories in 46 BC, Caesar was declared dictator for 10 years. In 45 BC, when Caesar was elected consul, he sat alone in the consulship office, contrary to Roman traditions. Throughout his life, although Caesar had won the love of many people, what he did with the power he gained provoked hatred in some. When he was elected consul in 45 BC, he sat alone in the consulship office, contrary to Roman traditions. Believing that he could do anything with his power, Caesar was declared dictator perpetuo, or dictator for life, by the Senate in 44 BC. However, like everything else, there was an end to Caesar's rule. In 44 BC, on the Ides of March 15th, he was assassinated by members of the Senate. Caesar's death completely changed Roman history. The civil war that followed his death led to the collapse of the Roman Republic and, eventually, the proclamation of his nephew Octavius as the first Roman emperor. This empire, founded by Caesar, managed to endure until 1453, when Mehmed the Conqueror captured Constantinople, putting an end to the Eastern Roman Empire.